This Richardson article is dated April 2, 2021. Internet journalist Dennis Peng indicted for defamation of Republic of China in-exile President Tsai Ing-wen faces 5 years in prison. The caption reads, Republic of China in-exile President Tsai Ing-wen and indicted journalist Dennis Peng. Republic of China in-exile President Tsai Ing-wen set off an academic firestorm in June 2019 when she submitted her PhD thesis to the London School of Economics 35 years late. Newsman Dennis Peng, himself a PhD, questioned the tardy submission and has waged a relentless campaign for the truth. Peng even traveled from Taipei to London in October 2019 to examine the controversial thesis. Now Peng finds himself facing 5 years in prison for his efforts. The Taipei District Prosecutor's Office on March 31st indicted the internet talk show host for aggravated defamation to influence Tsai's 2020 re-election, a crime punishable under ROC's archaic laws. Peng will not be allowed a jury trial. The exiled Chinese government that occupies Taiwan does not uphold the jury system. Prosecutors say they went through the relevant documents and evidence before determining that Tsai completed her doctoral dissertation, passed an oral viva examination, and was awarded a doctoral degree from the University of London in 1984. In September 2019, Tsai made a complaint against Peng and 2 other professors, He Defen and Huan Lin, after the controversy erupted. Prosecutors waited over a year before calling He and Peng into the court for questioning. He refused to answer the subpoena while Peng showed up at court only to refuse to answer questions, instead holding a news conference to question the validity of Tsai's doctoral degree. Peng has now been indicted for aggravated defamation because he allegedly failed to check his facts before reporting. Prosecutors decided Professors He and Lin made an effort to verify their criticism and declined to prosecute them. Peng has kept up his criticism of Tsai's thesis on his popular show True Voice of Taiwan. Peng's efforts to learn the truth about Tsai's London School of Economics thesis, entitled Unfair Trade Practices and Safeguard Actions, resulted in Tsai's academic records in Taiwan to be sealed as a state secret for 50 years until 2049. In a statement, Peng remains undeterred by the criminal indictment. I hope that by being prosecuted, the whole case can be transferred to the court for a public trial. There is no personal interest in investigating this case. It is purely based on academic conscience and value. If I lose the case because of the justice under control of the president, I will go to jail with honor. Dennis Peng holds a PhD from the University of Wisconsin-Madison's School of Journalism and Mass Communication. Peng has taught at the National Taiwan University's Graduate Institute of Journalism for 20 years and served as its director. Peng has advised on over 100 theses and says he has never encountered a situation like that of Tsai's thesis. When Peng answered the subpoena, he boldly dared the prosecution. For my crimes listed above, I am asking the prosecutor sentence me to death. If that is what it takes for the case to be seen through, so be it, for the greater good of this country. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, the Information Review Tribunal in the United Kingdom is dealing with 2 pending Freedom of Information cases to determine the identity and nature of the October 16, 1983 viva examination of Tsai. The University of London, which issued Tsai's degree because the London School of Economics was not approved for doctoral degrees, has been stonewalling on naming the thesis examiners, whom Tsai also refuses to identify. Dennis Peng continues to ask if the PhD degree is legitimate and President Tsai passed her viva examination. Why will she not name the thesis examiners? This Focus Taiwan article is dated March 31, 2021. The caption reads, Former political talk show host Dennis Peng. Taipei, March 31st. The Taipei District Prosecutor's Office on Wednesday indicted former political talk show host Dennis Peng, for aggravated libel for saying in 2019 that the academic credentials of President Tsai Ing-wen were fake. According to the indictment, prosecutors said they went through the relevant documents and evidence before determining that Tsai in fact completed her doctoral dissertation, passed an oral examination, and obtained her doctoral degree in law from the London School of Economics and Political Science in 1984. They charged that the 60-year-old Peng, an experienced media personality, spread inaccurate remarks without double-checking the facts for his own personal interests. Peng did so to increase the viewership and click-through rate on his online talk show True Voice of Taiwan, the prosecutors alleged. The indictment came after Tsai took legal action in September 2019 against National Taiwan University law professor emeritus He Defen, Huan Lin, an associate professor of economics at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and Peng, after they said her academic credentials from the LSE were fake. He leveled the charges at a press conference on August 28, 2019, when she accused Tsai of forging her PhD dissertation and the official doctoral degree certificate. He said at that time it was reasonable to suspect that Tsai's dissertation and doctoral degree had been forged for 35 years, citing a report by Lin to support her argument. In his report, Lin said he found after a week-long investigation at the LSE that Tsai's doctoral dissertation was only for use in her thesis defense and not the final version needed to decide her degree. In response, Tsai had her attorneys file a complaint against He and Lin at the Taipei District Prosecutor Office on September 4th, accusing them of damaging her reputation. She later also sued Peng for the same offense. On Wednesday, the District Prosecutor's Office decided not to indict He and Lin, explaining that the two had double-checked their claims as best as they could before making the accusations. The office also did not find sufficient evidence indicating that the two scholars had malicious intent and wanted to denigrate Tsai and damage her reputation, it said. Tsai's academic credentials have been the subject of discussion in Taiwanese media since Peng raised the issue in a Facebook post in June 2019, when Tsai was seeking re-election. Following months of speculation about Tsai's academic credentials, the LSE issued a formal statement in October confirming that Tsai was correctly awarded a PhD in law in 1984. Speaking of the indictment on Wednesday, presidential spokesman Denham said the presidential office does not comment on any individual case out of respect for the judiciary system. This new Bloom article is dated April 9, 2021. Dennis Peng charged with libel over dissertation accusations against Tsai. Media personality Dennis Peng was charged with aggravated libel last week for accusations made by Peng that President Tsai Ing-wen's PhD is illegitimate. Such accusations, which have been referred to as Taiwan's equivalent of birth risk conspiracy theories, such as those made against former US President Barack Obama, or that Tsai never wrote her dissertation, and so her PhD from the London School of Economics is fake. Such accusations were heavily leveraged upon by the deep green conservatives of the Formosa Alliance in the lead-up to 2020 presidential elections. At the time, Tsai was facing backlash against deep green conservatives because they did not see her as sufficiently proactive on the issue of Taiwan independence. Such individuals hope for Tsai to take more direct moves to steer Taiwan towards political independence, such as pushing for constitutional changes or an independence referendum. Likewise, many of the members of the Formosa Alliance were angered by Tsai's progressive social policy, with particular anger focusing on attempts by Tsai to legalize gay marriage, and they seemed to begrudge Tsai as a female politician, sometimes speculating about Tsai's sexuality. Peng was one of the largest amplifiers of disinformation that Tsai had never written a PhD thesis, hosting a talk show on Formosa television that frequently gave airtime to such conspiracy theories. Peng previously taught at the National Taiwan University's journalism department. At the time, Peng was backed by one of the key leaders of the Formosa Alliance, Guo Pei-hong, the chair of Formosa Television. Some believe that Guo was originally hoping to challenge Tsai for the DPP's presidential nomination in the lead-up to 2020 elections. Guo later backed Tsai's former premier, William Lai, in a challenge against Tsai that was backed by the Formosa Alliance. But after Guo was ousted from Formosa Television's leadership in April 2019 due to an internal controversy over his use of company funds, Peng and his television crew also left the station to continue their program. Allegations against Tsai continued to take place on this new streaming program, resulting in Tsai filing a libel case against him. After Tsai eventually produced her dissertation and proof that she had in fact graduated from LSE, accusations against Tsai eventually shifted to claiming that Tsai's thesis was plagiarized. Conspiratorial accusations against Tsai were eventually also embraced by the Pan-Blue camp, with the KMT also leveraging on the issue against Tsai. However, one notes that it was a potentially risky move by Tsai to sue Peng for libel. Namely, Tsai would run the risk of opening herself up to accusations that she was seeking to silence critics, even critics within her own camp, through legal threats. Ironically enough, this has been an accusation frequently leveled against Tsai by the KMT. The KMT has long accused the Tsai administration of conducting a green terror through the party assets probe into assets of the KMT retained from property seizures, the authoritarian period, and the Transitional Justice Commission aimed at clarifying past crimes committed by the KMT during the White Terror. The KMT has continued to criticize the Tsai administration as resorting to authoritarian methods of suppressing dissent due to actions by the Tsai administration aimed at curbing Chinese disinformation. This includes the Tsai administration's refusal to renew the license of television broadcaster CTI-TV after the outlet devoted its airtime to around-the-clock coverage of its preferred KMT presidential candidate former Kaohsiung Mayor Han Kuo-yu before 2020 elections. Following CTI TV's failure to have its license renewed, much as with Peng's television show, it moved to online streaming. Subsequently, the KMT has lashed out at the Tsai administration for seeking to regulate Chinese over-the-top providers, that is, online streaming services which operate in Taiwan, claiming that the Tsai administration seeks to shut down media platforms it does not control and trying to suggest that CTI's TV online streaming program would be targeted by such measures. One expects Peng to allege political targeting from the Tsai administration after the charges against him, though Peng will still be tried on these charges. But one observes convergent behavior between the Deep Greens and Pan Blue camp. Then, when it comes to conspiratorial attacks on the Tsai administration and insistent claims that the Tsai administration is seeking to politically persecute critics, given that Deep Greens are socially conservative, much as the Pan Blue camp is, it may not be surprising if this leads to Deep Greens into alignment with the Pan Blue camp. This remains to be seen, but this seems far from impossible and could potentially serve as a point of leverage for Chinese disinformation. Notably, similar disinformation circulated among Deep Greens and members of the Pan Blue camp, not only pointing to their similar views, but how they might be drawn into alignment. I've been following this publication New Bloom for a long time now, and after reading this article, I can confirm that this is basically a mouthpiece for the Tsai administration. The editor, Brian Ho, is basically trying to paint the issue with Tsai Ing-wen's fake PhD from the London School of Economics as some conspiracy theory and possibly quote-unquote Chinese disinformation. There is no indication at all that issues regarding Tsai Ing-wen's fake PhD thesis and her fake PhD degree have anything to do with mainland China, but yet he continues to bring it up in his article as if Tsai was the real victim in this case. Tsai never produced her dissertation. She produced a draft document. This is disinformation that she actually proved that she has the degree. If she has no dissertation, it was never turned into the libraries. Therefore, the certificate that she showed was fake. Also, nowhere in this article is it mentioned that the dissertation has been sealed until 2049. Surely a knowledgeable writer, such as Brian Ho, would know something like that, but he deliberately omitted it from his article. He also failed to mention that people from the so-called Formosa Alliance, or people who support Taiwan independence, are upset with Tsai because she cheated William Lai out of the DPP primary. He made no mention of this, and this is a major sticking point for this so-called crowd of the Formosa Alliance and people who support Taiwan independence. He also didn't mention that former Vice President Annette Lu and former President Chen Shui-bian have also commented on the fake PhD. Former President Chen Shui-bian confirmed that her so-called thesis advisor, Michael Elliott, never mentioned her when he visited him in 2005. So in his articles, he always says what the accusations are against the Tsai administration, and then he basically denies that they are true. However, those accusations against them are basically the truth. The only way he can defend Tsai is to say that this is so-called Chinese disinformation, and once again painting Tsai Ing-wen as the actual victim, when in fact she's the one victimizing CTI TV station and Dennis Peng's show that was formerly on FTV. So there's several things wrong with this. First of all, the prosecutors have said that they've gone through all the relevant documents and determined that Tsai received a PhD in 1984 from the London School of Economics. This is completely inaccurate. The documentation provided by Tsai Ing-wen in the presidential office appear to be bits and pieces of evidence. Many of the documents she has presented appear to be forged. They also don't have proper signatures on them. In Professor Huang Lin's paper and on Dr. Peng's show, they have gone through all of these documents showing what is wrong with them piece by piece. The attention to detail is rather incredible. The show The Voice of Taiwan, hosted by Dennis Peng, has shown us almost too much detail for why the PhD degree from the LSE is fake for Tsai Ing-wen. Therefore, for the prosecutors to say that He Defen and Huang Lin double-checked their facts and Dennis Peng did not is absolutely ridiculous. Dennis Peng, Peng Wen-zhen, has done more than anybody to show all the evidence in painstaking detail on his show. He also went out of his way and went to London and checked with the libraries there and proved beyond a reasonable doubt that her thesis cannot be found in the computer system. He also showed us a proper thesis and what it looks like. Therefore, for the prosecutors to indict him on this reason is absolutely ridiculous. I can only come to the conclusion that he has been indicted because of the influence of his show. He has a daily show that gets about 100,000 views per day. This show is the greatest threat to the Tsai administration regarding the fake PhD case. That is the real reason why he has been indicted. This indictment is clearly against freedom of speech and freedom of press. According to the prosecutor's logic, there is absolutely no reason to indict him for this reason. Additionally, the prosecutors have offered no reasoning for why the evidence presented on this show is incorrect. They offer no reasoning for why they believe that Tsai actually has a PhD degree. If Dennis Peng is actually convicted for this would be the strongest move made by the Tsai administration against freedom of speech and freedom of press in Taiwan. Late in 2020, the Tsai administration, through the NCC, had already shut down CTI or Zhongtian TV station. It appears their next move is to start censoring shows on the internet. The move appears to be to take down this daily show, The Voice of Taiwan. If successful, the Tsai administration will have started censoring the internet, making the Republic of China in Taiwan virtually no different from the People's Republic of China. By convicting them of alleged wrongdoing without actually getting into the evidence, it's essentially a way of removing a show from YouTube. Removing CTI TV station from Channel 52, cable television, was not enough for them. This appears to be the beginning of a purge of YouTube channels. While of course YouTube will not be blocked in Taiwan like it is in mainland China, but by removing an entire show, this information regarding the fake PhD case has essentially been removed on the internet. If its host is put in jail, and if he is not convicted, it's still a form of censorship. It's still judicial pressure on the host of a popular show on YouTube. So all I can say is that this is very concerning for Taiwan's freedom of speech and freedom of press, even on the internet. There are plenty of YouTube channels and programs posted to YouTube where people are speaking positively about the government. All of these shows will not be censored. The talk show hosts will not be indicted even if they are spreading disinformation on behalf of the central government. Prosecutors don't go after people for spreading disinformation if it's on behalf of the DPP government. But if you tell the truth and it's against the Tsai administration, then you could be indicted.